June 6, 1944, 06:45 hours. The periscope of the USS Harder breaks the surface of the Celebes Sea for no more than 30 seconds. Inside the cramped conning tower, Commander Samuel D. Dealey's world narrows to the magnified view through the eyepiece. What he sees sends a jolt of adrenaline through his system. Not one, but 3 Japanese destroyers are slicing through the water, their bows aimed directly at his position off Tawi Tawi. Range, 1,200 yards, and closing at over 30 knots. Every fiber of his training, every page of the U.S. Navy's submarine doctrine screams the same order: crash dive, go deep, run silent, and pray. His executive officer, Frank Lynch, stares at him, awaiting the command. Dealey's knuckles are white on the periscope grips. The Harder is a 311-foot Gato-class submarine, blind and slow when submerged. The lead destroyer, the Minazuki, is a dedicated hunter, armed with depth charges and a crew eager to kill. In the tense silence, Dealey makes a decision that defies all logic and training. In a calm, measured voice, he gives not the order to dive, but the order to fight. Battle station's torpedo, stand by forward tubes. We're going to shoot him right down his throat. The Harder turns to present its narrow bow to the charging destroyer, a move so audacious it borders on insanity. The geometry is brutal, a target only 30 feet wide, approaching at a combined speed of nearly 50 miles per hour. In the control room, 79 men brace themselves, hearing the approaching thrum, thrum, thrum of the destroyer's screws through the hull. Dealey calls out ranges as the distance plummets: 900 yards, 800, 700. He's waiting for the perfect moment, the point where his torpedo spread can't miss. At 600 yards, he gives the order: fire 1, fire 2, fire 3. The submarine shudders as the Mark 14 torpedoes are ejected. Immediately, Dealey orders the dive. As the Harder plunges, the crew counts the agonizing seconds to impact. The explosion, when it comes, is a massive, satisfying crump that shakes the boat. Cheers erupt. They've done the impossible. But as Dealey takes a final sweep with the periscope before descending, the real shock hits. Beyond the sinking Minazuki, in the sheltered waters of Tawi Tawi anchorage, lies a forest of masts and pagoda towers. He isn't just facing a picket line. He has stumbled upon the holy grail of naval intelligence, the entire Japanese mobile fleet, including the legendary battleships Yamato and Musashi at anchor. Now, every destroyer in the Imperial Navy will be hunting for him. October 1943, Pearl Harbor. The mood in the conference room was funerary. Admiral Charles Lockwood, commander of the Pacific Fleet submarines, stood before a map studded with red pins marking the last known positions of 52 lost American submarines. "Gentlemen, we have a crisis," he began, his voice flat. "Our primary weapon is a dud." The data was damning. The Mark 14 torpedo, rushed into production, was failing at a rate near 50%. Its magnetic exploder detonated prematurely, its contact pistol crumpled on impact, and it consistently ran 11 feet deeper than set. Submarine commanders were risking everything to deliver perfect attacks, only to hear harmless clunks against enemy hulls or watch their torpedoes explode prematurely. The prescribed doctrine, cautious, long-range attacks on merchant ships, avoiding deadly escorts, wasn't just failing, it was getting men killed for nothing. The consensus in the room, led by senior tacticians like Captain John Cromwell, was clear: minimize risk, follow the protocol, and hope the engineers eventually fix the torpedo. In the audience, Samuel Dealey listened, a quiet frustration building. He was not a celebrated ace, just a competent officer from a battleship background, but on his previous patrols, he'd seen the failures firsthand. After the meeting, he approached Lockwood. "Admiral, what if we're thinking about this backwards?" he ventured. "We treat destroyers as threats to avoid,
But every destroyer we sink is one less escort protecting their carriers and battleships. What if we hunted them? Lockwood was skeptical, citing the near-suicidal odds of a head-on, down-the-throat shot. Dealey persisted, his argument simple and driven by the ghostly pins on the map. "With all respect, sir, what we're doing now isn't working. I'd rather die trying something new than die following a doctrine that gets us zero results." His request for tactical freedom was denied, but the seed was planted. As Dealey walked out, he was handed new orders. Take USS Harder on a surveillance patrol to a remote anchorage called Tawi Tawi. It was a routine assignment, giving him no hint that in 8 months he would get the chance to prove his heretical theory right in the most dramatic way imaginable.
The hit on the Minazuki was a vindicating roar, but triumph was immediately replaced by terror. As the USS Harder plunged towards safer depth, the sea around them erupted. The 2 surviving destroyers, now enraged, began a systematic depth charge attack. For hours, the submarine was hammered by concussive blasts, lights flickering, men braced against bulkheads as the hull groaned under pressure. Through the chaos, Dealey's mind raced with the magnitude of his discovery. The entire Japanese mobile fleet was just miles away. This intelligence was more valuable than a single destroyer kill. Once they shook their pursuers, he surfaced and sent an urgent coded message to Pearl Harbor. "Mobile fleet at Tawi Tawi, 2BB, 5CV+, sank 1DD, continuing patrol." He knew revealing their position was a risk, but the strategic picture outweighed it. The crew, exhausted but alive, felt a surge of confidence. Dealey's down-the-throat tactic had worked. They had not only survived, but struck the first blow. The response from command was not the commendation he expected. 90 minutes later, a priority message arrived from Captain John Cromwell, the submarine operations commander who had championed cautious doctrine. It was unequivocal. "Harder, return to base immediately. Do not engage enemy destroyers. Repeat, do not engage. Primary mission intelligence gathering. Acknowledge, Cromwell." In the control room, the order fell like a physical weight. Executive Officer Frank Lynch read it over Dealey's shoulder. "It's a direct order, Sam. We got our kill. We reported the fleet. The book says we go home." Dealey stared at the paper, then at the periscope housing. He made a decision that would define his legacy and risk his career. Crumpling the message, he said calmly, "We're not leaving. That fleet will scatter now that they know they're spotted. Our new mission is to make sure they can't sleep. We're going to sink another destroyer, and then we're going to send them the bill." June 7th, 1944, 0742 a.m. The Japanese destroyer Hayanami cut through the water, part of a renewed search pattern for the audacious submarine. Inside the USS Harder, the atmosphere was electric with tension and defiance. Commander Dealey, having consciously crumpled a direct order from high command, stalked the approaching destroyer through his periscope. His crew, though anxious, trusted the man who had just delivered a miracle. The gamble was even greater this time. The Japanese were alert, and failure meant not just death, but potential disgrace for insubordination. At 1,150 yards, Dealey gave the calm, practiced command: "Fire 1, fire 2, fire 3. Again, the lurch of the boat, the agonizing weight. This time, 2 torpedoes found their mark. The Hayanami was ripped apart, sinking in just 4 minutes. On the Harder, the cheer was more muted than before. This was no longer luck, but a terrifying new routine. They had not just survived again, they had become hunters. The strategic shockwaves were immediate. Aboard the battleship Yamato in Tawi Tawi anchorage, Vice Admiral Ugaki Matome recorded the crisis in his diary. "The American submarine threat has become intolerable. This submarine appears to be hunting our escorts specifically, a radical departure." Unknowingly, Dealey's personal rebellion was forcing the Imperial Navy's hand. Meanwhile, a new message arrived for the Harder. It was not a reprimand, but a demand for clarification from Pearl Harbor, asking for confirmation of the second kill. Dealey saw his chance.
He didn't just confirm the sinking, he composed a detailed tactical report, breaking down the exact range, angle, and spread used. He was no longer just fighting a war, he was authoring a new manual for it, forcing the Navy to confront the effectiveness of the tactics they had ordered him to abandon.
June 9, 1944, Pearl Harbor. In Admiral Charles Lockwood's office, the air was thick with cigar smoke and tension. Captain John Cromwell stood before Lockwood's desk, his face flushed. "He's ignoring direct orders, Admiral. Dealey is risking his boat and crew on cowboy tactics. This down-the-throat nonsense has a documented success rate below 10%. I demand he be relieved of command immediately." Cromwell represented the old guard, the doctrine of caution written in the blood of lost boats like Wahoo and Grunion. He argued that Dealey's luck was about to run out, condemning him for turning a reconnaissance mission into a personal war. The debate split the room. Veteran submariners knew the statistics. Engaging a destroyer head-on was a death sentence. Yet Dealey's patrol reports sat on the desk, undeniable. 2 confirmed destroyer kills in 3 days. Admiral Lockwood, the pragmatist, burdened with the loss of 52 submarines, let the arguments rage. Then he raised a hand for silence. He picked up Dealey's latest report, detailing the precise attack on the Hayanami. "Captain Cromwell," Admiral said, his voice calm but firm, "the mathematics you cite are based on failures, on torpedoes that didn't work, and commanders who followed the book to their graves. Commander Dealey is sending us new mathematics." He turned to his operations officer. "What is the success rate of his specific tactics using his firing data?" The answer was revolutionary. At a range of 900 to 1,200 yards, Dealey's method showed a 67% hit rate. Lockwood made his decision. "Send to Harder, continue mission, weapons free, good hunting." "The book is wrong," he concluded, staring at Cromwell. "And that man out there is rewriting it." Empowered by Lockwood's unprecedented weapons-free order, Sam Dealey transformed from a fugitive into a predator. On June 9th, he sighted the destroyer Tanakaze. The script was now familiar. Hold course, let the hunter close the distance, and wait for the perfect geometry. At 1,200 yards, he fired. This time, the results were even more spectacular. 2 torpedoes hit, breaking the destroyer's back. It sank in minutes. In 4 days, Dealey had sunk 3 frontline Japanese destroyers using a tactic deemed impossible. The psychological and strategic effect was immediate. From his periscope, Dealey watched as the previously placid anchorage at Tawi Tawi erupted in frantic activity. Ships were raising anchors, forming conning towers, and battle groups began to steam out to sea. His campaign of terror was working. He was single-handedly flushing out the entire mobile fleet. Dealey's focus now transcended the immediate hunt. He became a meticulous tactician documentarian. Between attacks and evasions, he compiled detailed notes, exact ranges, torpedo gyro angles, speed calculations, and damage assessments. He wasn't just proving a theory, he was creating a replicable blueprint. A coded transmission was sent to Pearl Harbor, not just claiming the kill on Tanakaze, but containing the core of a new tactical doctrine. The message was clear. Destroyers were not invincible overlords of the deep, but vulnerable targets. The hunter had become the hunted, and the once secret Japanese base was now untenable, forcing their entire fleet into the open sea where American carrier task forces waited. In the quiet analysis rooms of Pearl Harbor, Dealey's raw data ignited a revolution. The numbers were irrefutable. Before his 5th patrol, the overall success rate for submarines against destroyers was a dismal 12%. Dealey's down-the-throat method, executed at point-blank range, boasted a staggering 67% hit rate. His detailed reports provided a step-by-step guide: the optimal firing range, 900 to 1,200 yards, the precise spread angle, the critical timing. This wasn't anecdotal luck. It was a reproducible formula. By July 1944, new tactical bulletins were being distributed to every submarine in the Pacific Fleet. The forbidden maneuver was now mandatory training. The psychological shift was as important as the tactical one. American submariners were no longer instructed to flee from destroyers, but to consider them primary targets. The hunter-killer ethos born on the USS Harder was becoming the standard. The ultimate validation came not from a memo, but from history itself. The Japanese mobile fleet, forced into the open sea by Dealey's relentless pressure, sailed directly into a trap. On June 19th to 20th, 1944, American carrier aircraft met them in the Battle of the Philippine Sea, achieving such a lopsided victory it was dubbed the Great Marianas Turkey Shoot. The Japanese lost 3 carriers and over 600 aircraft, a blow from which their naval air power never recovered. While Dealey and the Harder were already on their fateful next patrol, the strategic victory they enabled was complete. His insubordination had forced a fleet's movement, his innovation had rewritten the rules of engagement, and his courage had paved the way for one of the most decisive naval victories of the Pacific War.
August 24th, 1944, off Luzon, Philippines. The USS Harder, on her 6th war patrol, stalked enemy convoy routes. The submarine that had terrorized an entire fleet was now the most wanted vessel in the Pacific. Japanese anti-submarine forces were on high alert. Just after midnight, the specialized minesweeper CD-22, acting as a subchaser, gained sonar contact. It executed a perfect, lethal depth charge attack. Aboard Harder, there was no time for evasion. A catastrophic implosion tore through the pressure hull at 300 feet. Commander Samuel Dealey and his 78 men were killed instantly. The submarine that had rewritten the rules of engagement had finally met its end, not in a duel with the destroyer, but from the heightened, desperate countermeasures its own success had provoked. Dealey was posthumously awarded the Medal of Honor. His legacy was etched in cold statistics. 5 destroyers sunk, 54,200 tons of warships sent to the bottom, and a tactical revolution that saved countless Allied sailors. By war's end, the down-the-throat attack was standard doctrine, credited with sinking dozens of Japanese escorts. In 2024, the Lost 52 project located Harder's wreck, resting upright at 3,000 feet. The submarine's bow was still pointed forward, as if on eternal patrol, a silent testament to the commander who proved that the greatest threat to the hunter is the prey that decides to fight back.